Turns out. So, just everyone here. All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome back from break. Hope everyone had a relaxing time. For special programming tonight, we have Mark G., who is our current student trustee. So he's going to tell us a little bit about his role and answer any of your questions. Also, applications are due by the end of the month, so please get those in if you're applying.
Thanks for that plug, Izzy. So I am a graduate student first at Purdue. Did my undergrad here, finished up 2019, went and worked for a while, and then came back to grad school full-time in person starting summer of 2021. But I was also appointed at that time to be the student trustee by Governor Holcomb. And I'm going to guess that most of you don't know what the student trustee is, so I'll just go through it real quick and then be happy to just chat with you guys about the important issues going on at Purdue and what your thoughts are about all that. So going way back, kind of a little history lesson here, Purdue's a land-grant university. Established by the Morrill Act during Abe Lincoln's time, federal government gave a bunch of land in trust to the states to establish a university. Those state legislatures then gave those resources to a board of trustees and basically said, we trust you to do everything proper and necessary to meet the land grant mission, which is teaching, extension, and research. And so basically the board of trustees is 10 members. It's written down in Indiana law, 10 members, one of which has to be a current student of the university. This is true for Purdue and then all the other public universities across the state as well. And these 10 members have oversight responsibilities for the entire university. And the student's job on that board is to act in the best interests of Purdue, but also to make sure that student voices are heard in discussions about the university and what is going to be coming in the future. Because most of the other members of the boards are people who've had distinguished careers, leadership roles in the military, business, public sector, you name it. Which means that also most of them haven't been in a classroom for a couple decades. So that's kind of where I come in is, I'm here every day. I've been in classrooms. I've been on Zoom classes during COVID. I know what that's like, so I can help the other trustees understand that and hopefully make better decisions. So that's just a real quick overview. I'd really like to make this kind of more informal. I know you guys are working on a lot of different things, or interested in a lot of what is going on in the administrative levels of Purdue. So do any of you have any questions about what the student trustee is or how the board of trustees functions?
I think that a good distinction to make would be, what is the difference between your job in advocating for students and our student body president's job in advocating for students, both graduate and undergraduate?
Sure, that's a really good point. So as I see it, your all's job is to advocate for the students you represent. You were elected by a college or a department or some other section of the university, and you're here to bring forward the issues that they find important and help improve Purdue by bringing those suggestions up. And you pass resolutions and move those projects forward. The student trustee, while they are a student and have the responsibility to talk with students across the university, I think the key distinction is they don't represent a sector of Purdue. They're there to act in the best interests of Purdue as a whole. So I try and talk to as many students as I can across campus, all types of different organizations, colleges, all that, just to get as many perspectives as possible. But I also spend a lot of time talking with staff and talking with professors and trying to make decisions based on a broader perspective than just students as well. That was a great question, thanks. Let's hear it, Andrew.
What's your favorite thing that you've had to work on over the past 2 years?
That's a good question. So it's been pretty wild. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but a lot's been happening. Daddy Daniels is moving on, and we got to come up with a good nickname for Mung Chang. I don't want to call him Hung Mung, but I've heard that one going around, so we got to come up with something better than that. So that's been like a crazy thing. Am I not allowed to say that here? Everybody's like getting all wrapped up. No. So the biggest thing, honestly, though, is the business school, right? Purdue has this awesome base in STEM, right? Like we've been in engineering and technology school for a long time, hit at the top of the charts in that realm pretty regularly. And I think the world's been talking a lot about the need for business leaders who are also technical experts or people who know how to work with engineers, scientists, data analysts. And Purdue's in a really cool spot to be able to combine this huge investment and project in revamping the business school with our existing strengths in engineering. And that's something I'm super excited to see take off and see where it goes from here.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming to speaking to us today. I know that I've been having conversations with both students and faculty of sort of around the vein of what does it mean to have a new president or a new provost coming in for students. And I was wondering if you had a perspective, being on the board of trustees, of what those sort of changes sort of look like for student-to-student life.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see, right? Mung has very much taken a thoughtful approach to his presidency. He spent a whole bunch of time listening to students. I know he's planning to come talk to you guys at some point. He's done his listening sessions with professors, and he's very clearly building an agenda together, what his top priorities are. And I think the board chose Mung to be the next president because they saw him as the right person to steer Purdue into this future that's been envisioned, right? A land-grant university was a place where anybody can get educated, holds costs down so anybody can afford it, but then provides top-tier, trying to be number one educational programs. And I don't know if you guys know this, but Mung is an academic, right? He was a professor at Princeton, got all his degrees at Stanford, basically invented a field of edge computing that makes the Internet of Things even possible. Really smart guy. So I imagine that his professor's background will really influence things, and that he'll probably bring a little bit more of that perspective into talking about how do we teach students in the new digital era, stuff like that, which I think will be an interesting transition to see unfold.
What kind of projects do the Board of Trustees work on?
There are a lot. So we talked about the business school. The IUPUI transition in Indianapolis is another big one that the board's been focusing on for some months. Not months, years. Well before I was even on the board. And for those of you who aren't aware, IUPUI in Indy is splitting, and IU's getting a portion of it, Purdue's getting a portion of it, and we're incorporating it into the Purdue West Lafayette campus. So we're trying to envision all sorts of interesting experiences of what that could look like. Does Purdue build basically a corridor between Indy and West Lafayette where students can travel back and forth on public transportation? Do we establish a residency internship co-op program in Indy so you could maybe do your junior year study away and actually be in a downtown environment, lots of things to do, work for your employer of choice while also going in your classes? There's a lot of ideas there. That's a big one. And then let's see, what are a few more? Dorms is another big one. Purdue's been growing like crazy, right? We all feel it in the dining courts, in the gym, everywhere else. And back when the growth started under President Daniels, there was a whole bunch of extra capacity around Purdue because the previous president had actually shrunk the student population. And now we're kind of evaluating, do the pants still fit, right? We've grown. Do we still have enough capacity to handle all these students? Where is that right size? And that's not an easy question to ask because, do we need 10 squat racks for every person in the co-rec? No. Do we need one to be available, as soon as you walk in the door? Maybe not. Do we want a line that's 10 students long? that's too much. So trying to figure out where that line is another project we've been working on.
Speaking about growth, I know you keep referencing dining halls and the co-recs, but especially in the dorms, it is definitely getting crowded. There was an issue earlier this semester where a lot of students wanted to live in the dorms, and then they had already reached capacity before the window had closed. Could you speak a little bit about how the board addresses those issues, or how they consider the growth of Purdue into that equation?
Yeah, 100%. And I think that also might highlight a little bit the differences between student government and the trustees that you were referencing earlier. So no question, the dorms are crowded right now, right? We have more people that want to be living on Purdue than currently we have space for. And if you look at that in a narrow window of what we're experiencing right now, you would say the decision is obvious: build more dorms. However, the trustees have to look at what is Purdue going to be like 10 years, 50 years, 100 years from now, and make the right decisions to ensure that we're still a top-tier university. And there's a couple of big factors that give you a moment for pause. There are many fewer students who are going to be graduating from high school in Indiana and across the country starting about 3 to 5 years from now. There was just a cliff in births, so there's going to be fewer students who are applying to colleges. Actually, you're already seeing this in that a lot of schools like Valpo and others and regional campuses are struggling to get enrollment, and some of them are closing. We don't want that to happen to Purdue. And specifically, each time we build a dorm, it's about $100 million to $150 million. And if you saddle the university with that much debt for a current demand, but then 5 years from now, there's not enough students coming to Purdue, that's not acting in responsible fashion. So that's kind of the decision point that people have been wrestling with for some years here now. It's become obvious that Purdue's success is basically it's buoying our enrollment. Because Purdue is so successful, students from Illinois, Texas, California, wherever else want to come here to Indiana. So even though there's that cliff of Indiana students from outside the state will probably still allow us to maintain our enrollment. So that's actually why Aspire was purchased recently this last semester, and the board is now looking at building another dorm. We've not approved the dorm. We've approved the planning process. So figure out how to build it, how much would it cost, looking to go near Meredith and a few other locations on campus. So it's looking like we're comfortable with that decision, that we'll be able to keep our enrollment steady, but it was a big risk, especially over the past 5 years when we weren't sure how successful Purdue Moves was going to be.
Once again, thank you for coming and talking to us. Aside from housing, another, big deal that I've talked to students about is parking. I was wondering if you know anything about, because of all the construction going on, especially around the Ross State Stadium, that whole side is closed off. Students can't walk down it, so they have to park and then walk around it. I was wondering if you knew anything about a potential change in parking or whatever it is. I know the Armory lot was changed to only university staff can park there now.
Yep.
In the gravel lot. I just didn't know if you knew anything.
Yeah, so parking is actually like the number one thing I hear about from students. And so I've thought about it and looked into it quite a bit. We want Purdue to be a pedestrian-friendly campus, right? We all love walking around the malls, not having to wait for the cars, just go where you want to go. And a school that has sufficient on-campus housing can easily be a pedestrian campus. So answering that first housing question is really what comes first, and then comes the parking question. So our answer to the parking question first is we're going to make sure we build enough dorms and have enough capacity so the number of cars competing for those spots is less. But you're right, as we're building and expanding this campus, we're eating up the gravel lots and taking up the spaces. So at some point, we're going to have to look at where else can we put more parking spaces out in the surrounding area, and probably have a shuttle in from the lots or something like that.
This is just a clarification on the comment you made. I guess, what do you mean by like having a dorm would decrease the fighting over the parking spots? Because to me, I mean, if you move 2,000 more people on campus, at least 500 of them are going to want to park somewhere around campus, regardless if they're out of state or whatever. But wouldn't that increase traffic flow for spots that aren't available now?
It all depends on how many students in that dorm bring a car to campus, right? The ideal for the parking situation would be every additional dorm bed we build takes a student out of an apartment and they come to campus without a car or they leave their car at home, right? But I would say even of those 500 that move into the dorm and bring their car with them, they were already using their car when they lived off campus in an apartment anyway, so that's not increasing the competition. And then the 1,500 students in your 2,000 student dorm who aren't having their car on campus anymore because they can just walk everywhere will hopefully reduce the congestion problem. Yeah.
Is the Board of Trustees planning on utilizing any survey data to support this hypothesis? Just out of curiosity.
100%. That is like my interpretation of it. So you all probably know Mike Klein, or at least some of you do, physical facilities. His team is incredibly data driven. So when I say we've authorized a study, they go in and they spend a lot of time surveying students, measuring traffic with the little meters and all of that to get data driven decisions about, is this actually true? And also, I'm not a traffic expert, right? So like my theories about what will reduce parking and what won't reduce parking maybe not as good as Mike's. So usually we defer to the experts for technical details about how you want to do something like traffic routing.
What does like a typical meeting look like, and what do you have to do to prepare for that?
Sure. So a typical meeting is usually a 2-day session. There's a Thursday executive session, which is private. And in that private session, things are talked about like hiring, firing decisions, what land Purdue is thinking about buying or building on. You don't want to discuss that publicly because if someone knows that Purdue wants it, the prices will go sky high. So those kinds of decisions are made behind closed doors. And then, speculative like legal agreements and like strategy for something like that are discussed Thursday. Friday, there's the public session. And Friday is usually, the focus is the consensus building. So the board very much operates by consensus, right? It's not one person charging ahead. And I think you all are familiar with that. You got to bring people along. And so many of these big decisions for Purdue, you want input from all over the community. And by the time it's reached that final vote, everybody's had time to look at it and talk about it, oftentimes for years. And the experts have weighed in, and that's formed the final decision. So usually the Friday session is about discussing the important matters for Purdue, what other input do we need from the community, and then reviewing inputs from Mike Klein or Chris Rule or other administrative departments to make sure that we're all in agreement about the next steps Purdue's going to take.
This new dormitory that you've approved, seems like my microphone is new dormitory that you've approved the planning process for. Can you speak to any specifics such as capacity, time range for when it might be completed?
So there really aren't specifics right now. It's very open-ended in that I think the charge was essentially, if you were going to build the next dorm, Mike Klein, how big would you build it, where would you build it, and how much would it cost, and when will it be done? So literally to answer all the questions that you have there is the purpose of that report.
To go back to what you were talking about previously with private sessions, how does the Board of Trustees balance having these private sessions and closed-door conversations with open transparency to the student body and other interested parties?
Yeah, so that is a great question. Actually, when I stepped into the role as a student, that's something I spent a lot of time thinking about because I'd never served on a board before. The public disclosure requirements, what's the difference? And I think the main guiding principle is you want to talk in public about as much as you can, right? When you get people on board and people understand the decision process, then they're more likely to be supportive, right? So it's a pretty clear dividing line there. Yeah.
One sort of opinion that I've come across to when it comes to the Board of Trustees around some students is sort of a belief that they're sometimes unresponsive to sort of needs currently that the students have. Sort of what is your recommendation to someone who works with them so closely, from student representatives to best engage with the Board of Trustees, or just average students engaging with the Board of Trustees?
Sure. So that's a really good question. I want to think about it for a second and make sure give you a thoughtful response. From my perspective, the board does move slowly. And I think the reason for that is that they are making institutional level decisions or institutional level change. And that's not something that you want to do lightheartedly, right? Our institutions in the United States have been created over a long time with some careful thought. And there's no question that we can continue to improve them, but you don't want to burn it all down and start over from scratch. There's a lot of great things going on here at Purdue. So when I see issues that students are really passionate about, there's oftentimes a desire for action immediately, oftentimes even within hours. Where's the response from the university? And simply they put more time and thought into it than that and talk to a lot of different people. And so that I understand the desire for something to happen instantly. And I think, you guys can all draw on your personal experience here, right? Moving something even through University Senate or Student Government Senate takes way longer than you ever would want it to. And that's just a artifact of the consensus building process. All right. If that's all the questions, I really appreciate you guys taking the time. We'll put one more plug in. So student trustee is a 2-year term. I'm about 6 months away from the end of my term, and we're selecting the next student trustee. It's a committee of student government members. Izzy knows better than I do who all is on it, but it's student government, both from this campus, the regional campuses, a few members of the administration, and myself. And applications are due January 22nd. All the information is on the Purdue Board of Trustees website. And if you are interested or you know somebody who's interested, send the link their way and submit an application. But again, you have to be at Purdue for 2 more years. So you need to be graduating basically in 2025. So thank you all. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much. I'll see you soon. Okay, so we have a new senator. Would you like to come down? We're going to swear you in. Yes. 2. We have 2 new senators. Yeah, that too. Anyone. I really think that's it.
Like right.
Yeah. All right, just repeat after me. Raise your right hand. I state your name.
I, Brooke,
I, Eric. On this 11th day of January 2023.
on this 11th day of January 2023,
Swear to abide by and uphold.
swear to abide by and uphold
The Constitution and the bylaws.
the Constitution and the bylaws
Of the Purdue Student Government.
of the Purdue Student Government.
I swear to conduct.
I swear to conduct
All legislative business.
all legislative business
With the utmost integrity.
with the utmost integrity
And with the best interest of Purdue University.
and with the best interest of Purdue University
And its student body.
and its student body
As my main
as my main objectives.
Okay, hello everyone. Welcome back. At 7:36 p.m., I will now call this meeting to order. So if you are a visitor, please state your name and your reason for being here, if we have any.
My name is Kathleen Martinez. I'm a photographer with The Exponent.
Liam Alford, reporter, Purdue Exponent.
Perfect. Welcome, everyone. Now we will move into proxy reports. So if you are a proxy, please state your name and the senator you are proxying for at this time.
Connor McNabney, proxying for Joshua Sexton.
Alrighty. So hearing no more proxies, we can move into roll call by Secretary Friend.
Senator Ferguson.
Here.
Senator Mariani.
Here.
Senator Hampton.
Here.
Senator Terrell.
Here.
Senator Scudder.
Here.
Senator Brown.
Here.
Senator Kirkendall.
Here.
Senator Diaz.
Here.
Senator Wheeler.
Here.
Senator Dodona.
Here.
Senator Bottini.
Here.
Senator Conrad.
Here.
Senator Alexander.
Absent.
Senator DeLucia Green.
Here.
Senator Famua.
Here.
Senator Ackerman.
Here.
Senator Toshik.
Here.
Senator Bowman.
Here.
Senator de Guzman.
Here.
Senator Kirsch.
Absent.
Senator Adam.
Here.
Senator Johnson.
Here.
Senator De Silva.
Here.
Senator Liu.
Here.
Senator Woodruff.
Here.
Senator Oriani.
Here.
Senator Rigney.
Absent.
Senator Robinson. Senator Yax. Senator Jane.
Absent.
Alrighty. Now we are going to move into our land acknowledgement. So Purdue student government acknowledges traditional homelands of the indigenous people, which Purdue University is built upon. We honor and appreciate the Potawatomi, Delaware, Miami, and Shawnee people who are the original indigenous caretakers. We will now all rise for the Senator Pledge of Purpose. Okay, so our purpose is to be the voice of the Purdue student body, serve the needs of students in all university matters, and provide leadership that stimulates initiative, inspires excellence, and exemplifies professionalism. And above all, hail Purdue. Perfect. You guys haven't launched your touch since winter break. Thank you. Alrighty, so the minutes for the last meeting were distributed to all via SharePoint. Are there any corrections to the minutes at this time? Seeing none, the minutes are approved as distributed. We will now move into executive reports. President Jensen, do you have any reports at this time?
Oh, I absolutely do. All right, so I guess everyone probably saw the email that went out around 6 o'clock this afternoon. So Lyft, our Lyft Safe Ride program will officially be starting tomorrow. So we're super excited for that. And so again, that goes from 9 p.m. to 9 a.m. Thursday, Friday, and Saturday night. And then on the One App and Student Engagement RFP, the vendor deadline has been hit. And so all of those kind of applications from vendors are in, and we'll start going over those next week as well.
Perfect. For my executive report, we have some exciting news. Our next special programming speakers will be President Chang and Provost Wolf. So we're still working out the details, whether or not they want questions beforehand. But either way, please start thinking of questions because I might ask for those in advance. But we want it to be a really good discussion because we have two very big names on our campus coming in. So, yay that. Also, like we said before, if you're interested in student trustee, please talk to me about it. All right. Now, Chief of Staff for Rugby, do you have any executive reports?
No, I do. All right, so committee stuff is moving. Let's see. The most important thing that I do want to let you guys know about, you'll be getting an email about this shortly, is next week, Wednesday from 7 to 9 in Walk 1018. We'll be hosting kind of like our spring retreat in a sense. It's called the Purdue State of the Union. This idea was sort of kind of brought on by Deputy Chief of Staff Lewis. Yeah, there we go. Essentially, this event is really just meant to be kind of like a call to action. Here's what we're doing. Here's sort of the roles that we have. Here's what all the other branches are doing. I would really recommend everybody involved, in PSG, regardless of if you're a senator or a clerk or a justice, to attend. It's not necessarily mandatory, even though the email is going to say that it's mandatory. However, if you do have a conflict or anything like that, you can totally let us know, and that's going to be completely excused. However, I would love to see participation from every single branch in Purdue student government, because I think that that's really what the goal of the spring retreat is, to sort of just re-energize us as we kind of take on the end of the semester. Any questions regarding any of that? Fantastic. Additionally, we have some really cool appointment bills coming up, so I'm very excited.
Are there any other executive reports at this time? Press Secretary Escunas.
So I got two things. Number one, the boiler update's going to go out next Thursday, so send me any info if you have it. And the other one is I'm going to be doing some of the marketing for the new LIFT program. So I'm going to be speaking with a number of student organizations over the next few weeks. And so I'll probably be reaching out to people pretty soon. But if you have contact information, or you're in a large organization and you'd like to have me or somebody else come and speak with them about the program, please let me know.
Perfect. Pro Tem Ferguson.
Yeah, so a few things we didn't get through at caucus. One big event that's also coming up is our Mental Health Action Week, and every standing committee is going to participate. So, and we really do encourage that you all would want to participate, like in other orgs that you're a part of, etc. So please, if you have any questions, Jaden is here, as well as just reach out to us and just expect that that's coming up. It's going to be the week before spring break. Please update your Senate duties spreadsheet from last semester if you haven't already. There are a lot of empty spaces on them that I know you guys did them and just didn't fill out the spreadsheet. So pretty please do that, as well as fill out the check-in when to meets that have been sent to you a few times, both via Slack and in your emails, and that schedule will be coming out by the end of the week. Thank y'all.
Lovely. Any other executive reports? Treasurer Wiseman?
As always, you can check out the budget in the SharePoint, see where we are. Just a reminder that every college and every standing committee has funds allocated to them. Shout out College of Ag for using some funds last semester, but all the other colleges, you still have money sitting there that you can use this semester, as well as the standing committees. MHA is a great opportunity to do that, use those funds up, because we lose them at the end of the year. Just please reach out to me if you have questions or before you do start spending any money, so we can make sure we're following all of the rules. SOGA Period 3 applications, so those are grants for student organizations up to $15,000. Are due this coming Tuesday, January 17th. That's funding events March through May, so basically all of the spring semester. So anyone in your colleges, student orgs looking for money, that is a great opportunity. And then lastly, the big one, I think Mike sent out campus-wide on Monday that everyone should have got, that the SFAB application is due Wednesday, February 1st. These are for grant requests from $15,000 to $100,000, and it does not have to be a student organization. It can be any initiative on campus that's backed by a fiscal agent. So that can be a department or a school or student organizations as well. So that's a great chance if you have an idea for campus, to apply for some funds for that. I'm happy to answer any questions, or Mike as well, if you have SFAB questions.
Fantastic. Any other executive reports at this time? All right, seeing none, we can move into committee reports, starting with internal affairs.
Just one big announcement, really. Internal affairs is working on a big rework of our governing documents right now. moving a lot of stuff into court standing rules, Senate standing rules, as well as writing and creating cabinet and BOD standing rules, 2 separate documents for those. That will be our big project most of the semester. Smaller thing right now, if anyone hasn't, please get your office hours scheduled soon. If anyone has any questions about that, feel free to DM me.
Very nice. Financial affairs?
Yeah, so small grants are still trucking along. This upcoming meeting, we have a couple to review, but then we're also going to talk about maybe our M-Hall event or putting on an event this semester is what I wanted to propose to the committee. So we'll discuss that and then talk about it, and hopefully we'll have an update the next time.
Campus and student resource affairs?
So our committee is doing good, sending lots of enthusiastic messages. We're working right now on just getting a meeting time because we all have very different schedules right now. We still have a to-do list left over from last semester, so initiatives we started, and maybe we were waiting on data from faculty, or we're working on survey questions right now to like tackle a bunch of questions we have about like our little initiatives. So I'm really excited about that. And then obviously we're gonna have to plan an M-Hall event. I'm challenging the other chairs now. Our M-Hall event's gonna smash your M-Hall events, so start preparing for the disappointment in your own events because ours is gonna be the best.
All right, university and academic affairs.
Yeah, nothing much from our ends. We just figured out a time for everyone to meet. So this upcoming weekend, we're actually going to figure out what our M-Hall event, well, at least like have ideas for that, and then just catch up with this people that we talked to from the previous semester and make sure that those initiatives are on its way.
And then do we have any ad hoc committee reports at this time? Yes, Pro Tem Dodonna.
Yeah, so Safer is still figuring out our meeting time for the semester. Hopefully we'll be meeting next week. We have that survey left over from last semester that we're getting some input on, like ensuring like non-biased questions from the university. So we're still going to go over that feedback and then hopefully submit that out there, as well as working with the legislation that we all passed and figuring out the best ways to sort of implement that and working with the university to find the best ways to do that. That's going to be our primary goal this semester.
Yes, Senator Robinson.
Yeah, so for the Black Boilermaker Experience Committee, I'm actually really excited. We have 2 interviews already scheduled, and I've gotten, my committee's growing a little bit. I have a cameraman now and someone who can edit, so that's going to be great. But yeah, we're super excited, and it'll be great. So more updates later, hopefully.
Great. Yes.
So Pride has solidified our meeting times. Anyone is welcome to join this upcoming Sunday at 4 p.m., I think. If you would like to come, text Slack me and I will get you more details. We're also going to be tabling the next 2 weeks to advertise the survey that we're wrapping up from last semester, and that's going to go into the analysis phase of survey collection. And then I also want to plug that the LGBTQ Center grand opening is this upcoming January 27th, so not really upcoming, but just around the corner, and they are officially open to visitors, so stop in and check out their new space down in Hicks.
Nice. You can plug it next session too, as well. Alrighty. Oh, yes.
And then the Disability Ad Hoc Committee, we are working on a new meeting time for this semester since our old one doesn't work anymore. We also just finished writing and got back a survey that we're going to, I guess, send out to the boiler update. So the boiler update, and we're still working on our action plan.
Perfect. Are there any other committee reports at this time? All right. Oh, yes.
I apologize. I didn't know how to formally go about that. But yes, whoever doesn't know, I'm the IMHA chair. But yeah, we are doing really well. Our second committee meeting is going to be tomorrow at 7 in Walk. Anyone is welcome. You didn't have to go to the first one to come. Again, basically we have 90 members total in our committee and over 30 like active members. So you can come join any subcommittee that you would like. We're right now focusing on choosing our main event, our speaker, and we've decided on our theme. So we're really just hitting the ground running this semester. And then I also will be hosting a call out for any clubs and organizations who are wanting to partake in MHA. So the call out is going to be next Tuesday, the 17th, in Walk B066 at 6 p.m. So I know that obviously you senators can get me the information. You don't necessarily have to go to the call out. I will be sending out a form so that I can have formal documentation of the events that you're planning on hosting. So I have all of that information, whether you need to fill out an APF or anything like that, and so we can also promote it. But if you're part of another organization or club, you are more than welcome to come as well. So yeah, that's all I have.
Awesome. All right, am I missing any? Yes.
What's the theme?
The theme is MHA all day, every day, and it's going for we're kind of going for a big festival vibe. That's what Caps and I came up with. It's focusing on moving forward in it's supposed to be the biggest MHA ever, and just focusing on making it fun, making it a big deal. So we set a precedent for the future and making it about holistic wellness and about the positives of mental health.
Thanks.
All right. Seeing no more committee reports, we can now move into informal business or discussion. Do I hear any informal discussion at this time? All right. Seeing none, we can now move into old business. Do I hear any old business? Pro Tem Dodona.
I move to bring up Bill 2235.
Second.
It has been properly moved and seconded to bring up Bill 2235, the 2023 election rules. This bill is amendable and debatable and requires a majority vote. We will start with discussion from the authors of the bill and then move into discussion from the floor. So who would like to start? Pro Tem Dodona.
Yeah, so these are the same election rules that we voted on at the last session. We in caucus, we talked through two sort of concerns that were brought up by our advisor, particularly the ranked choice voting area and some releasing the information, releasing the results prior to official releases. I know that there is some conversation that needs to be had about that ranked choice voting system, so I'll just let people who want to talk about that go ahead.
Yes, Senator Robinson.
I move to propose a friendly amendment.
Cannot be friendly.
Not be friendly. So I move to propose a formal amendment.
What kind of formal amendment would that be?
Do I need to say it out loud?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. I'm so sorry. Okay, so this is. I'm so sorry, I was not ready for this. Give me 1 minute.
In the meantime, yes.
So I just kind of want to talk about maybe my concern about the ranking system a little bit. At first, I was really into it, and I liked the whole ranking first through sixth, and like first place gets 6 points, and sixth place gets 1 point, and kind of goes through. But as we discussed, I think my biggest problem came up when we found out that the actual order that people were going to be, or that ballots would be placed in, or that different campaigns would be placed on the ballot was going to be the same for every single person who was voting. And I think that could cause a problem when people don't care for any other ballot, like any other campaigns except for just for one. So they vote that one person first, and then they just go down the list in the order and do 2 through 6 for the rest of the people. And if that top campaign gets second every single time, they get 5 points on every single person that's voting. Generally, not really every single person, they might end up winning just because they're getting voted second every single time. That's my biggest concern, and I would like to hear some discussion, I guess, on what people think solutions to that could be.
Mm-hmm. Before we proceed, did you have that pulled up? So we'll circle back to Senator Robinson's amendment.
Thank you. Okay, so formal amendment for Article 11, Section 1. C, but it's C, but specifically like the B indentation of that. And I would like to change this to: voters shall not be able to rank tickets equally. The number of points a ticket is to receive will be dependent on the order in which they were placed on the ballot. Only the first 3 tickets on a voter's ballot will be allowed to receive points. The first ticket shall receive the maximum amount of 10 points. The second shall receive 7 points, and the third shall receive 5 points. Additionally, the point distribution shall be made visible and explicitly clear on the ballot to voters. And I can most definitely send this out to someone who needs it, but cool.
Also, real quick, Senator Robinson, can you also select that to Secretary Friend? Thank you. Yes, Senator Robinson.
Second.
Oh, yes, thank you.
As far as the making that clear to voters, I think that that's super important so that they do realize that their second and third votes actually do matter. I still think that there might be some issues with people just ranking the top like campaign or ticket at second a lot, but I think it could definitely reduce that possibility by voicing that your second and third choices really do have effect, and then 4 through 6 don't.
Okay. Pro Tem Ferguson.
I allocate 2 minutes of my time to President Jensen.
Thank you.
Thank you. I do have an opinion on this. So, my opinion on just how can you make it as fairly as possible. To a lot of Purdue's campus, the student body elections don't necessarily matter to them. And while it does matter to us, to a lot of campus, it does not. And so a lot of people, whether that last year they want a cookie or they want a t-shirt or they want something else just for voting or just because they're hungry maybe. For me, for those people that don't care, the most fair way to do it is just with one choice, just because they can put just some random campaign, right? They can pick the third one, they can pick the fourth one, and they don't have to necessarily know about the campaigns. A lot of people on our campus don't know about the campaigns, but if we're thinking about probability and statistics, the most fair way to do it is just single choice voting.
Okay. Yes, Senator Bowman.
I just want to strongly echo President Jensen's words. I completely agree that I think, as we discussed in Senate, there's not a way to right now kind of randomize which order that the tickets show up when you drop down the menu. So again, I wasn't able to say this in caucus, but we would like it if a lot of the student body, it would be amazing, was researching the campaigns, being really involved in elections and making informed votes, but that's just not reality. So so little of the student population is going to vote in the election, and even less of that population is going to do the active research on the campaigns. And what they're most likely going to do is just say, here's the one I want, and even though they read your next 4 choices matter, they're just going to still click them in order, or they're just going to click randomly, and that really does take away, from someone that actually they wanted to do first, but the rest of the they voted second place, and because someone was second place more than other people, that they ended up winning. So I think that I agree that it should just really be simplified down to just you put one ticket, and whoever gets the most votes, they win the thing.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but shouldn't this be discussing the amendment first? So can we discuss that and then vote on that?
Yes. So Senator Robinson, can you give a quick summary of what the amendment was real quick?
Yeah, sure. So essentially it'd be changing, the first place would get 10 points. Only 3 tickets will be able to receive points under this. And we can totally change this. I mean, obviously I talked to everyone and said it, and you guys heard what everyone else said. So if you have any ideas of if you don't like the specific numbers, or you don't like that not all campaigns get points, then please say something. But essentially, yeah, I'd go from 10, and then the second ticket, who's voted second on a ballot, would get 7, and then 5. Does that clarify everything for people? Are there any questions that you have for me? I would like to answer them.
Senator Brown?
Yes, kind of on the number side of things, with 10, 7, 5, and the rest of them would get 0, do you think that would kind of offset it too much? Would it be like if 5 was the top, or some other number? I don't know what your thoughts are. I was just thinking about kind of the 0 to 10 is such a large jump compared to a 0 to 5. So
my intention with this is that if you're voting number 1, that person should get the most points. Like your first place should get the most points. So yeah, we don't have to do like 10 per se, but I think I worry with 5 that it's too easily like be able to be dissuaded, right, with other votes, and so that might be a problem. So like between the 7 to 10 range, I think for the first place like on a ballot, I think would be manageable, and I'd be willing to change that if that's like something you want to change. But yeah, did that answer your question?
Yes, definitely. I'm fine with the 10. I'm just trying to like figure out in my head the number wise.
Pro Tem Ferguson.
Yeah, I also do want to point out to people that this would only be the case if there are 3 or more tickets. If there are less than 3 campaigns, then it would be single choice voting, like President Jensen was bringing up.
Is there any further discussion on the amendment at hand? Senator Mariani?
I also agree with President Jensen, actually. I think no matter the system used for...
Well, last time we chatted, I didn't. But.
My mind has changed since then. I think no matter the system for ranked choice voting, whoever's at that top choice is going to get a significant number of second place votes after whoever, as people have been saying, gets in contact with the person first. And whether that is they get 7 points or whatever, or even if we use the ranked choice system from last year, it's still going to skew that way. So I think if we want to take the most amount of randomness out as possible, it would be going down to single choice voting. And because of that, I would probably be voting no on Senator Robinson's amendment as it stands, because I would want to make an amendment to get rid of ranked choice voting altogether.
Pro Tem Tadana.
I want to say my support for Senator Robinson's amendment. There's have been a lot of conversations about. I think that this helps fix the issues with ranked choice voting, and I don't think it makes sense to completely throw it out, because I think the sentiment is to allow for those, even if your top choice candidate doesn't win, you still have a say in who gets elected. It allows for more civility, less negative campaigning, it allows for you to still have a say in the entire process. And I know that there's conversations about students not really caring, but I think we should build it in a way that still allows for students who don't really care to vote, but also takes into account that those who do care get to have that say that they want. So I think that this fixes sort of the initial problem with it, gives a little more balance, as well as still has the merit that ranked choice voting has.
Yes.
Do we know how many students voted last year and what percentage of Purdue voted?
President Jensen, do you actually have that on hand?
And I allocate him a minute to say his piece.
I think we're in a race. President Jensen and Pro Tem Tadana are both looking, so whoever gets it first, just raise your hand. But in the meantime, Senator Robinson.
Yeah, so I think we can talk about single choice voting if like we don't like this idea of ranked choice voting. But like, can we stick to a little, like, I'm willing to vote no on this. I want to vote yes, because I think that if we all are in agreement that like ranked choice voting is the way to go, this would be the best way to pursue ranked choice voting. But I don't know if it's possible to like vote no on this and then maybe circle back to it, or if it's no, it's like no officially, because I know there's some discussion that wants to be had about single choice voting.
Okay, to answer your question, Pro Tem Ferguson, did you have that answer to her question?
We could also like get rid of this amendment and then also bring it back to the floor. That is not an issue.
Like table it?
This could be tabled, or we could all vote no on it, and then it could be reintroduced to the floor.
Perfect. To get back to the previous question, Pro Tem Tadana.
3,692 people voted last year. There's 40,000 people on campus. Small.
Yeah. Yeah, Senator Adams. Yeah.
I don't really agree with the sentiment that it would be less negative. I think if I do agree that Senator Robinson's amendment is the best way to go about ranked voting, but I think single choice voting was probably going to be the best option if we just get rid of the ranked altogether. I don't agree with ranked choice being less negative. I feel like it actually creates more of the tell them to put this person last, tell them to put this campaign first. Like I think it creates that narrative more instead of just vote for us, and it doesn't even you don't even have to talk about any of the other tickets on the ballot, because all you have to do is focus on your own ticket and getting votes for yourself. You don't have to focus on any of the other tickets and where you want them to, I know that's not in the guidelines to be able to even talk about those things, but they get talked about, and that's just the fact of the matter. And I think it would eliminate that by only being able to vote for one ticket.
Dr. Ferguson.
I know that this has been a concern brought up by our advisor, Dr. King, of should someone, if we get rid of ranked choice completely and it's single choice voting, then someone may or may not have a majority of the votes. Or in our case, it was going to be like whoever had the most amount of points would have won. But if we go back to single choice voting, it would go back to percentages. And I know that that was a concern that Dr. King had. And I didn't know if, Mike, if you had any other insight on whether or not that would be an issue or any of her thoughts.
Hi, everybody. So I am playing messenger for Dr. King tonight, so excuse me if I do not have all the answers. I know one of the questions that Dr. King asked was for if 2 tickets receive the same amount of votes, how would this work for student council votes, and would it be constitutional? That was something I was going to ask you all to just discuss or ponder, whether you go single choice voting or the ranked system. Is it constitutional to have the student council presidents do that vote?
Senator Robinson.
This is a point of information for the parliamentarian. How do I basically pause this discussion so we can talk about single choice and ranked choice voting? How would I go about motioning that?
So you got 2 options, and Pro Tem Ferguson kind of hit on them. You can either vote on the amendment, since that's what is on the floor right now, and you can vote to fail it, and then you would just get rid of that, and you can come back to it later with the formal motion, or you can move to table it. In this case, you would just, no, you don't need a second. It's not amendable or debatable. You just go into, I move to table this amendment, needs a majority vote, and then Izzy could bring it up later on in the meeting.
Senator Robinson.
I move to table this amendment.
Alrighty, so it does require a second. Who would like to second? Nope, no second. Never mind, I've lied. Okay, so it's not amendable or debatable, but it requires a majority vote. So let's go ahead and vote on if we would like to table this motion. All right. All those opposed? Those in agreement. All those opposed? Any abstentions? So that felt like majority, so we can go ahead and proceed with the election rules as they stand. Pro Tem Tadona.
To answer our advisor's question, the allowing for student councils to decide, that is already in the government. It is already in the election rules. That was a copy over, and that only happens if they get tied twice. So the chances of that happening, very little. The constitutionality, I would say, has been proven. That's been fine. It's been in the election rules for as long as I can remember. My second point is sort of we had a lot of conversations about whether we should do ranked choice voting or not do ranked choice voting, and the sort of resounding factor on not doing single choice voting was focused on the fact that theoretically someone could win 20% of just the people who voted and still get the position. And if there's a problem with sort of Routini brought it up, considering like somebody getting enough first person votes, but getting canceled out by sort of second or last votes. So my consideration is it's sort of hard to grant legitimacy to a ticket or to a candidate or to a platform if not even they get 20% of the entire of everybody who voted, and that person could still theoretically win when we're talking about 6, 5, 4, 7 tickets. So that's sort of my like bigger concern, and like in terms of like fairness and elements, I think that's my perspective is more from like the federal government side, which I think that still stands here, as there's been a lot of research on the benefits of ranked choice voting, and so I still think that there is some problems with it. There's never going to be a perfect system, but I think that the initial amendment that Senator Robinson made sort of allows for more fairness while still considering the fact that we want to have as much of a plurality of opinion on who gets this position, because their job is to represent all of the student body, not just the 20% that they possibly could get. So that's why I still think that single choice voting is not the answer for this problem.
Senator Bettini.
So I disagree with ranked voting with points entirely, because this completely goes against the whole popular vote system. With this change, it would provide a chance for the people with the most amount of votes for first a chance to no longer win. This does not let the students who they really want to win, rather than leave it up to chance and possibly for students to manipulate the election. They can do this by having the people who vote for them have them rank their closest running candidate all the way at the bottom. And by voting for this change, you are completely going against the popular voting system and completely violating the rule of one vote, one person, or one person, one vote. The person with the most amount of votes should win.
Senator Brown?
I'd say echoing that point, I initially was for ranked system, but after the talks, I've kind of moved over to the one person, one vote, especially with somebody trying to figure out who they want to vote for. If you're told that you have to vote 5 people in a certain order, 6 people, however many it is, versus you're told you get 1 vote, I feel as though the person who's told that they get 1 vote might dig deeper into what each candidate stands for and have their vote matter more. Whereas it's like, okay, well, I'll just research them a little bit and say, this one looks cool, and then just go down the list.
Senator Terrell?
So listening to the whole debate, like when it comes to multiple votes or like stacked votes or just the 1 vote thing, I mean, either way, like we'll all vote for it. I just want to take into account that we do have a lot of people, just like President Jensen kind of touched on earlier, that vote because they want this or that or the sticker or whatever. And so if we have it as a single vote, then, I mean, we've already talked about the list on the ballot is going to be who turns in their application first, right? So, you know, Sam turns in his application first, and then everyone wants to go vote to get a sucker, and Sam's the first person on there, so they pick him or her, and then, well, they're getting all those votes just because the person wants a sticker, but like the rest of their ballot doesn't matter at all, but they don't even care who wins. Like they're just putting the first person they see, and now that person's going to automatically get the only type of points that there is. Now, of course, if they don't care about who's winning, then they're probably not going to stack like in order, so that might be a void point. I just wanted to make sure that everyone kind of acknowledges that. I mean, we heard how many people turned out to vote, and I really wonder like how many of those people actually cared about who they voted for, or were they just doing it, you know, because they had a flyer in their hand or a cookie on a table.
Senator Robinson?
Yeah, so I have a couple thoughts. I'd be in favor of single choice voting if we, like, looking at past campaigns, there are at least 6 different ticket names. Like, 1 out of 6 different potentials I think is not really fair for what we're trying to go for if we're trying to get for an expansion of, like, reaching out to the entirety of the student body. So I think that's important to, like, think about that we are not the federal government and we don't necessarily have to reflect that. Also, I am against the single choice voting because it kind of narrows the scope in which like you can outreach, because it's like, okay, the first table that they see and they're convinced or they get a sticker, that's who they're going to vote for. And so then it just kind of depends on, I guess, good campaigning. So if you're everywhere all at once, you can get every single vote, but that's not really realistic for 3,000 students out of 40,000 total. So I think we need to maybe not do single choice voting. That's what my suggestion would be.
I think that's a good point, but we should also consider, even if we don't do single choice, so say we don't do single choice voting in that scenario, then the people are still going to go to tables and like get a cookie and vote for the first person that like gives them the cookie, right? But then they're just going to randomly select the rest of the people. So then it doesn't really matter that there's ranked choice voting.
Pro Tem Ferguson.
We can talk back and forth all day. Does anyone have an amendment? Because if not, I think it would make sense for us to just vote. Because if no one's going to actually propose something, then this is all a moot point.
Real quick, would anybody like to advocate or allocate some time for our advisor? Yes, Senator Terrell.
I'll allocate 3 minutes to our advisor.
I'm just throwing this out there. I'm hearing a lot of concerns regarding possible incentives that campaigns could give out to encourage voting for them. This may cause a ruffle, and I'm fine with that, but would you all consider amending your election process to disallow campaigns to give out incentives?
Pro Tem Ferguson.
Can I point out that transactional voting is not allowed within our current election rules. So you can't say, if you vote for me, you will get a cookie. You can't say, I will give you this cookie and I encourage you to vote, but you can't say, vote for me or no cookie for you. That is the currently in our election rules.
I'm just a quick problem solver, and I'm like, well, I'm hearing people having concerns. Why don't I just get rid of that?
Right. Senator Brown.
Kind of another just spitball suggestion, I guess. I know that people, when they see the names, they're like, oh, I don't know who this is, so on and so forth. Is there a way to where we'd be able to put their, like, what they stand for, and, like, what their campaign is on, like, their slogan or whatever it is on their, next to them?
I'm sure Evan Patterson would love to hear that suggestion, who is our current elections director. I don't think that he would have any. I don't want to speak for him, but I'm sure that that is potentially something the elections committee could do.
Senator Brown.
I think that would help with both either way of ranked or not ranked, because then you could look at it and say, oh, this person is stand for the robots on campus, whatever it is, or stand for more housing, whatever it is. And that way it's like, okay, they stand for this. I support that. So it's not just like, oh, I recognize the name Jonathan or Samuel or Lily or whoever it is, but it's like, okay, I support this. That's just kind of a suggestion that I guess I can bring up to Evan, not an amendment, I guess.
All right. Yes.
At the end of the day, the best candidate is going to win. If they run the best campaign, that campaign's going to win. And it's single choice voting. I feel like that if you want that candidate to win, people are going to vote for that candidate first, and that's their only option. I think you're trying to get an underdog vote if you keep having multiple rankings in a row and having a chance to go and, oh, I might pull up an upset and win.
Senator Robinson.
Hey, so no one has proposed an amendment yet, and if we're going to be voting on these, I would really like to vote on my amendment first, because I would like to see like what you guys think on that. So if you really want single choice voting, please make an amendment, like, so we can discuss this in further. But if not, I really do want to bring us back to the amendment I proposed.
Okay. Senator Mariani.
I apologize. I'd like to make a formal amendment. I'll have to check through all the sections that'll need to be changed, so it might need some changing throughout. But I think for now, I formally amend, it'll be on just so everyone can get to the page. Page 24, Article 11, Section 1, Part B. Right now, the current statement is, if there are 3 or fewer tickets on the presidential, vice presidential ballot, the vote shall be conducted where all voters get 1 vote to cast for one of the tickets. I propose, for now, to remove the statement, if there are 3 or fewer tickets on the presidential, vice presidential ballot, so that the remaining statement will just be the vote shall be conducted where all voters get 1 vote to cast for one of the tickets. And then there are other things that would need to be changed if ranked choice voting is removed that pertain to it, but I need to sort those through first.
Second.
Yes, except for Part D, I think, which is in the case of a tie, which is why I wanted to be specific. Okay, I'll strike the rest of that section except for Part D, also as a part of my amendment. Sorry, Julia, that was bad.
Second.
Alrighty, so now that that amendment has been proposed, and I think I heard a second, correct? Okay, and so now we're just going to be discussing that amendment as of right now. So, anyone have any points? Yes.
I can explain my thoughts, I suppose. To address President Pro Tempore Dodona's earlier point about lack of a majority in the winner, that could still happen in our ranked choice system. They could still have a plurality winner, even with the weighted voting system. And second, I think you have to bring up the validity of the statistics, because as a lot of people have mentioned, most voters who are not as informed as PSG members themselves, or people that are somehow involved with members of PSG, are going to vote for the person. They're going to put the person first they interact with first, and everyone else will be random. So even if there's a lot of people for one person, that is not an actual real representation of the student body's thoughts on that person. So if the vote is meant to be the most accurate representation, or be some metric of what the student body thinks of the presidential tickets, I think single choice is the most representative, because even if it is solely a metric of how much can one ticket outreach in a certain amount of time, that is at least some measurable metric rather than just who's first in the ballot.
Any other discussion at this time? Pro Tem Dodona?
While I think that historical data is valuable, and I don't want to say that it means that I don't think anyone believes that this election is going to be radically different from the last couple of elections. But that being said, I think that with the format change of a focus on an extended period for virtual campaigning, I think it might be unfair to say that the exact way it's happened in the past is the exact way it's going to happen in the future. And so I think with an extended campaign time of more of an online presence, which is now allowed within these election rules, that there's going to be more of a variety of opinions because of it's a less intensive interaction. It's more, there's going to be extended information out there for people virtually for a longer time, and so that sort of inherently allows for more diverse opinions on these different candidates. I'd also like to bring up what Senator Brown said. I think that this issue could be more, my opinion is that we should focus more on getting more information out there about elections and finding ways to ensure that people know about the candidates before voting, rather than sort of making an assumption on exactly how it's going to go within this year.
Any other discussion at this time? Senator Mariani?
I would argue to that point, while hopefully students will be more informed this year with the other changes we have put in place, I think it's undeniable what has happened in the past. And so even if we can hope, and I do hope that students are more informed this year, I think it is still the safer bet to have it be single choice voting. And if maybe we do have a survey or something with the election, how did you find out about this? Is it from a person or is it from tabling or someone? And we can get that data going forward so that we can be more representative in the future. But I think to do it now would be a risk that could result in someone not actually representing the student body's wishes getting put into the position.
Senator Bettini?
Could I move to vote for his amendment?
Okay. Julia, can you remind me how this process goes?
So this would be moving previous question for an amendment. So the official motion would be moving previous question. A second's required, but it's not amendable or debatable.
All right. Okay, so we will go ahead and put it to a vote. All those in favor on moving this to a vote, this amendment to a vote, to be clear, raise your placards if you agree. All those opposed? Any abstentions? 4. Okay. 1 minute. Okay. With a vote of 21, 1, and 4, we will be moving this to vote on this amendment. Okay. So, voting on Josh's amendment for there to be only single choice voting for this next upcoming election. Raise your placards if you agree. Okay, all those opposed? Okay, and any abstentions, please? Okay. Okay, with a vote of 20 to 4 to 2, the amendment passes. So congratulations. Alrighty, so we will now be looking at the 2023 election rules with this amendment included. So there will only be single choice or single rank voting happening. Correct? Yes. Any other discussion about these? President Ferguson? Never mind. Senator Brown?
Do we have to do anything with the tabled amendment, or is it just gone now, or what is, I don't know what the process is. Do you have to untable it and then vote, or we're just good?
So Julia's nodding yes. We will have to re-vote on the tabled amendment, but that will have to be brought back up and it will be seconded, and it's not amendable or debatable, but it requires a majority vote. So as of right now, are you posing to bring back up the tabled amendment?
Yes.
Okay. Can we get a second? Okay, great. So we are now circling back to Senator Robinson's tabled amendment for the ranked choice voting of 10, 7, 5, and then 0 for the rest of the campaigns. Okay. So now let's vote on that. All those who agree with that amendment, please raise your name placards. All those opposed, same sign. Any abstentions? Okay, you guys leave your hands up. Okay. Okay, with a vote of 1 to 19 to 6, the amendment fails. So we are looking solely at these election rules with Josh's amendment. Senator Adams.
I'd like to just bring up, or I have a question about the percentage and the grievances and that kind of, if a grievance is brought up with the percentages. I heard someone mentioned how that's kind of complicated. Can that be explained a little bit?
Pro Tem Dodona?
Yeah, I have two things. I can answer Evan's question. So the complication was revolving around how it was done with ranked choice voting last year in consideration of like the initial first tickets and then the removal of certain tickets to then get to a certain amount. So that would no longer be the case with single choice voting. It would just be a deduction off the votes they got because there's no consideration of ranking. I just want to make a comment on sort of this legislation, and I love good conversation. I think there's a lot of value in this, and I don't want people to not bring up stuff because I didn't think about it initially, but I do think that I do wish some of this stuff was brought up during the first time of this reading, because the sentiment behind the second time of this reading is supposed to be more to check on what we've done, as well as this is sort of on a time crunch, and it doesn't mean that we shouldn't do the best diligence, but I think that this should sort of serve as an example of like making sure people thoroughly look at the document beforehand so that we can have these conversations, one, in committee, and two, so it doesn't get as messy on the floor. Just a consideration of like, these things matter and we all have these opinions. I think it's equally as valuable to sort of bring them up on the first reading so that we don't have delays like this. Because before this, technically, there could be no amendment on this. Before the standing rules passed this upcoming semester, there could be no amendment because the sentiment is for these conversations to come out during the first reading. Not saying that doesn't mean it's not a valuable conversation. I just think that it's a consideration for the future when we're reviewing legislation to ensure that like we're all diligent on the first reading so that those conversations come out then.
Yes, Pro Tem Ferguson.
With that being said, I would like to just discuss some of the procedural movement forward with this. We will be having a third reading on this now because there was an amendment made tonight. Because of this, I would really, really appreciate as an author that we all take a firm look. Is this the document we want to pass? Because I would really not like any amendments on a third reading, because I feel as though if we're moving on to a fourth reading, that in my opinion is a little ridiculous at that point. So if you have any more concerns, please bring them up. Please take a quick glance over the document again and really make sure that this is what you would like as a senator to sign off on so that there are no more delays moving forward. Because going beyond January with these election rules can potentially have detrimental impacts on the effectiveness of our elections committee.
So just real quick, going off of Pro Tem Ferguson's comment, our next session will be January 25th, and then after that we move into February, and after spring break, that's kind of when campaigning usually starts. So we could, as of right now, table this bill if we wanted to. We can still discuss, that's totally open. We can table it for now, and then you guys kind of regroup and get back together for the next caucus meeting. I'm not sure if that's something that, no, you would rather keep discussion?
No matter what, this will need another full reading.
Oh yeah, of course.
So if we table it now, it will then still have to go back into February.
Yes.
So
the reason I'm bringing this up is we are getting close to 37 minutes, so I just want that to be clear.
I'm sorry. To both Lily and Ellie's point, this is definitely an urgent document to get passed. And that's why I think it's important to, and also to Izzy's point, we're reaching our maximum time limit soon. It is possible for us to extend our maximum time limit on a discussion. I know that's kind of crusty. You know, we all have lives that we need to get to, but these are important documents. I would like to remind everyone that last time discussion was voted on to end, and maybe some of these conversations could have happened that time, and then we wouldn't have to do this now. Just going forward in the future, I know it's our job to have these discussions, even if it is a little bit takes a lot of time sometimes. But yeah.
Senator Adams.
So, in the sentiment of bringing up things that you are iffy on about it, I would like to just bring up something that I was a little bit iffy on when in caucus, which was the 12 hours, learning the results 12 hours before everyone else does, and the repercussion that comes with it being leaked, and just the idea of, like, I just don't know how messy that could get, and how messy do we feel like that could be if it does get leaked.
Senator Terrell.
I feel like that hypothetical situation is a lot less messy than everyone being released at one time and then there being a recount and then PSG having to re-announce to the student body, psych, big fellas, we have a different president and vice president. Like, a leak is just like anything else you'll find on Reddit that's been leaked about Purdue. It's unofficial document, or it's like unofficial information. So I just don't think that it would have the same effect as like having to announce it to the entire student body.
Senator Adams.
So then, can I get clarification? So who exactly is being told? Is it just the president and vice president? And then are they given authority to tell no one else, and it's just between them two?
Pro Tem Dodonna.
Yes. So in vein to what Senator Adam was talking about, so basically it is explicitly told that it's only to the president and vice president and that they're not allowed to tell anyone else. It's that within that 12 hours, one thing I did mention during caucus, and this would basically, as is written now, is up to discretion to the election director, and I don't know why this wouldn't take place, is they just have to know the results so that they know if they won or they lost. And they have to know the calculations to get that result in order for in case a recount to happen. So that there could be a limitation on exactly what kind of information they have, that a losing ticket would only know that they lost and what the calculations were in case they want to call for a recount, while a winning ticket would know what they won and know the calculation. So there is some like limits on what that information can be. I'd just like to second what Senator Terrell said, which is it's a lot less messy doing that. And if there is some inevitable, if there is a leak, it's astronomically better in my opinion for that to sort of be like, sort of in like backroom conversations about this rather than Purdue student government having to make a statement. I also think that like, I would hope it wouldn't occur, but okay, I hope it wouldn't occur, but I do think it's something that any officer of student government would consider when we consider like our image is like if they're going to grant. So this I'm so sorry. A recount is up to the discretion of the advisors or the elections director, and I really don't want it to be in their head of, well, I don't really want to have to re-release these results and saying I was initially wrong. I'd rather that be taken completely out of their like ability to have that element into their decision, so that the decision to have a recount would be exclusively dependent upon whether they think a recount is completed.
Senator Adams.
I think the clarification is more just wanting to have a little bit more clarity on who actually gets told and not who actually.
Would anybody like to allocate some time to our advisor? Yes.
This is the final question that I was asked by Martina for you all to discuss, so thanks for doing it. My personal advice as an advisor would be to have contingency plans set in place. So I would encourage you all to think about setting up a plan of action in case results are leaked and if there's repercussions on how to handle that. That is just my advice. If you choose not to do that, that's very fine. I would advise that if you choose not to go forward with that, that is part in the elections rules for this year that was not set in place. That makes sense.
I think that in my opinion, that if this was leaked, that would into a grievable offense, and therefore that could come up in our grievance process if a central decided that it was large enough that they wanted to bring this up at a larger level. And additionally, I think that contingency plan doesn't explicitly need to be written into our election. I think that there are a lot of things that have explicitly taken out of elections committee control this year and said, okay, here's an outline of how it's done and how like it should be run. And I think that this is one thing that, in my opinion, should still be left unattended.
Senator Mariani.
I just want to be cognizant of the time we're about ahead of our time, but something I did not realize, and this is why I want to look through it some more. We really need to talk about senatorial vote tabulation. To my knowledge, not to be that guy. That our previous conversation was explicitly about presidential, vice presidential. Though technically we did vote to strike Part C as well, which is in regards to senatorial voting. So, in lieu of that, I would like to propose a formal amendment to replace the previously stricken Part C with a new Part C that will say the vote shall be conducted where all voters get a maximum number of votes equal to the number of candidates running or 3 votes, whichever is lower, to distribute equally amongst senatorial candidates to 18 votes. So what essentially that would mean is, like, if there's 2 candidates running for their college, they get 2 votes. If there's 3 or more, they get 3. And all 3 of those votes would be equally placed amongst those 3 candidates. And then whoever gets the highest number of votes out of the number of candidates would win.
Is there any discussion on the proposed amendment at hand? Okay, seeing none, we can go ahead and move that to a vote. So all those who agree, please raise your name placards. All those opposed, same sign. Any abstentions? Okay. With a vote of 25 to 0 to 1, the motion passes. So that new amendment will be added into that.
Point of order, in terms of the time limit, I just need a refreshing on the standing rules. It's 45 minutes, including amendment time as well.
It's 45 minutes per topic of discussion. Amendments are separate topics.
So then, my understanding, it has not been 45 minutes solely talking about.
I don't know when did the conversation start?
So I started the stopwatch as soon as Pro Tem Donona was done explaining her author bit.
So then it would be 45 minutes.
Right.
Because.
All right. So I'll be more cognizant of that in the future. All right. Pro Tem Ferguson.
Unless anyone, I'm gonna let Pro Tem go.
Pro Tem Donona.
I think that the point that Senator Brown brought up earlier on in the discussion had a lot of really good merit to it. We're doing ranked choice. I understand Senator Ferguson's perspective on letting the election committee. Good point. Make the amendment if Senator Brown doesn't want me to make the amendment, but I do think there's valuable in having on the ballot a requirement for information. Like most campaigns will have an Instagram or a website. I think that having a link to get more information on the ballot itself has a lot of value. And so, unless there's any issues or disagreements on that, right? And it will say that on the placement of the ballot next or website upon the
So we are now going to be discussing that amendment. Yes, Senator Ashton.
So that'd be like before you enter into the ballot, or is that like you're voting in the middle of it? Like that's like all the stuff.
So I would envision this to be a, like, within the ballot, you open up the ballot, you see, like, even in Senate races, theoretically this is possible with all of them, most commonly presidential, vice president, it would say, you know, the title of the candidates, and it would have a link that a voter could click on if they wanted to get more information. It'd say, here's more information for this candidate, and they click on it, and the candidates can choose whether they want to go to their Instagram or their website, or just a direct access to more information when voting.
Senator Brown.
My only thought with the link is that people are probably going to get on their phones, they're scrolling through, they click a link, and then maybe they press back twice, and then it's a hassle to go back to the voting, and then that's only my issue with the link, but I definitely strongly support there being extra information.
I too also like that, so you could make it like a sentence that they stand for and stipulate that it could only be 60 characters or however many words or something like that, like a tweet or something. Senator Terrell?
I definitely like the idea of having a way for a platform to be recognized by voters that may not have had previous exposure to all of this. I do think we need to be careful on what exactly that allowance is. Because, for example, if someone puts, I stand for inclusion, diversity, housing, and parking passes, and then someone else puts, well, I represent Greek life, still working on parking, and I really want to focus on how much money the co-rec spends, it could almost make it seem like one candidate doesn't support diversity or doesn't support this or doesn't support that just because it's not explicitly stated in their 60 characters, whereas someone else has. So that was the same thing I was thinking for slogans. So if someone has a slogan that's got 3 points to it, just because another candidate doesn't have that exact verbiage doesn't mean that their campaign wouldn't touch on that as well. So I just want to make sure we're not going to be dividing the verbiage down to the exact word of everyone has to list every possible thing that someone might want to vote for that they can remotely relate to their campaign, because then you're just fishing with words basically for votes.
Point of order. I know that an additional idea was thrown around, but we should at least right now be discussing whether or not we would like to add links to campaigns. I just want to put us back on our original amendment. Amendments can be made to that amendment, but if they're going to be made, we should just make them.
All right.
I am against the idea of having some sort of description. I think links still make the most amount of sense in my opinion, primarily because the sentiment is to give voters access to more information if they just so desire more information. And I think that giving them a link to platform information, it sort of solves what Senator Terrell was saying, that all that information could be on someone's platform. It gives them an avenue to look for more information, while I think that trying to have a slogan, and this is my opinion, that slogans don't really tell you much about the campaign or about the candidate. So I think that having a link to an area where you get more information, I think that people are, I guess, tech savvy enough to be able to sort of navigate that on a link page as well. Often, I feel like it's pretty simplistic. So I would prefer the amendment to stand without a slogan or a particular element. It could go to a link tree, any link that the candidates prefer for that information, so that students can really easily have accessibility to information if they so choose.
Is there any further discussion on the proposed amendment? Senator Brown?
I definitely agree, and the idea of link has kind of grown on me, I guess, in this short time. I think the amount of people that, yes, they might vote in line, but I know the system makes it so they can only vote once. I think the link is also sent out in an email to vote, maybe. So maybe on the table we can also add something like, make sure to check your email, so that way if they do lose the voting, they can just quickly go back and figure out where to vote.
Senator Robinson?
I motion or I move to previous question.
Second.
Okay, so that means that we will be moving to a vote on the amendment. Great. So all those who agree with the amendment, please raise your name placards.
Point of order.
Yes.
We're voting to vote.
Oh, thank you. All right. So now please raise your name placards if you are ready to vote on this amendment. All right. All those opposed? Any abstentions? All right. We will now be moving to a vote on this amendment. So now everyone who agrees with the amendment that was proposed, please raise your name placards. All those opposed, same sign. Okay. Any abstentions? Okay. Hold those abstentions, please. Okay, with a vote of 19 to 2 to 5, the proposed amendment passes. So that will now be factored into these 2023 election rules, that there will be links next to every campaign's name so you know who you're voting for. Alrighty. Yes.
In the spirit of not wanting this to go to a vote again, the entirety of the document, I think that it would be great for us to put in these amendments so you all can see the entire document before voting. So I move to take a 5-minute recess for amendments to be processed so that we can all see them, so that this doesn't happen again.
Julia, just real quick, if that's been proposed, do we have to vote on that now?
I'll second it.
Okay.
Yes, not debatable, but is amendable and needs a majority vote.
Okay. So real quick question on that question. So when you say it's not amendable, or no, when you say it's not debatable but it's amendable, could somebody propose an amendment before we vote?
Yes.
Okay. Does anyone have any amendments to that proposal? Senator Terrell?
I guess mine's just a question. Is there a way for us to table this and do the other two pieces of legislation, why those are updated, and then come back to this at the end so we can kind of get a move on?
Point of order, I think this might be not in accordance, outside the scope of Robert's rules and more in accordance with our standing rules, because we'd be moving on to new business, that technically would require a change in our agenda to be able to do this, and therefore any change in our agenda would require a 15-minute recess. This would be a great question for our delightful and furiously typing Internal Affairs Chair.
Point of order, we could just vote on this, take the recess, and it would take less time than figuring out this part.
Okay, let's do that. So, Julie, do we have to vote on the recess? All right, and that's majority, right? Yes. All right, so all those for research or recess, please raise your name placards. All those opposed? Oh God, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So sorry, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, and all those abstaining? Okay. One moment. Math. Okay, with a vote of 16 to 9 to 0, the recess will be had.
Everyone please send your amendments to Katie.
Yes. Alrighty, I hate to do this to everyone, but our recess has come to an end. Okay, so Secretary Friend has all the amendments put in on her end. I'm assuming we all have that on our own laptops, correct? Yes. All right, perfect. So, resuming discussion now. Great. Senator Bettini?
I would like to move to vote on this bill.
It's not a proper amendment.
Representative Dodona?
I would like to just call people's attention that, like, particularly the amendment in Article 9 was not 100% certain, so please look at it real quick. I don't want it to go through without people looking at it. I don't remember exactly what I said. I didn't write down beforehand, so I want everyone to look at it to make sure that they are okay with it.
Okay, Senator Mariani?
Just a quick thing that Senator Scooter pointed out to me. I would like to make a formal amendment. I apologize. To the same article I've been making amendments on. So now Article 11, Section 1, Part B will say the presidential vote, and Article 11, Section 1, Part C will say the senatorial vote, just for clarification.
Perfect. So speaking on that amendment alone, is there any further discussion on that?
Also, if people want to make amendments to any of this stuff, you're more than welcome to.
I second the amendment.
Thank you. All right, so seeing none, we can go ahead and move to a vote on the proposed amendment. So all those who are in agreement, please raise your name placards. All those opposed, same sign. Any abstentions? Okay, with the vote of 26 to 0, the amendment passes. So that will be added in on everyone's end, hopefully.
It's already been added.
Great. All right, Senator Brown?
Just a really quick thing on the link that was the topic about link that was added in Article 9, Section 1, Part C. My only qualm with it is that it says select a link to a social media page or website to appear next to their campaign. I think it might be better. I'm obviously open to discussion, but it'd be better if it was just open or left to the elections director and he or she, whoever it is, decides on what that link is. do. Just to add a little bit more ambiguity, so that way the elections director could be like, okay, we're all going to do social media. We're all going to do website.
Okay.
Open
Senator
discussion.
Brown, was that an amendment or was that just a discussion piece?
Just discussion. If people are like, that's a terrible idea, then I'm good.
Okay. Senator Adams?
I think it's fine how it is already.
Any further discussion? Okay. Really? All right. Okay. So seeing none, we can move to a vote on Bill 2235. So all those in favor, please raise your name placards. All those opposed, same sign. Any abstentions? Okay. With a vote of 22 to 0 to 4, the bill passes for the second time, but look forward to next reading. So, yay. Okay. So, is there any other old business? Yeah, I guess it doesn't really matter until the third reading, to be honest with you. So we'll just skip until the third reading. Okay, so is there any further or any other old business at hand? Seeing none, we can move into new business. Do I hear any new business at this time? Pro Tem Ferguson?
I move to bring Bill 2246 to the floor.
Second.
It has been properly moved and seconded to bring up Bill 2246, the Cabinet Appointment of Executive Director of Diversity and Inclusion, Kia Lodwala. This bill is amendable and debatable and requires a majority vote. We will start with discussion from the authors of the bill and then move to discussion from the floor. So, Chief of Staff Aregbi or President Jensen, would you like to start? Nope.
I don't know where he's at right now. I just have a question. Abidemi will talk when he gets in here, but I just have a question to Kia. Why do you think that you would be beneficial to Purdue student government and being in this position?
I don't know if this is working. Yeah, so the last semester I served as director for the committee, and I really liked how okay, I'm just gonna talk about it. I served as director for the committee last semester, and I felt like I was able to make a nice impact on the student body, and I was able to make a connection with them. And I would really like to continue that on and make a stronger connection and be able to make more tangible impact on campus. And I think as an executive director, I would have more ability to do this and have more abilities to make more opportunities to do things like this.
All right. Is there any further discussion at this time? Senator Mariani?
Just a quick clarifying question. There was a vote for an ED previously. Is this now for a co-ED, or is this a new person in that position?
That ED graduated, so.
Any further discussion? All right. Abidemi's not back, but I'm sure he has nothing but positive things to say. Otherwise, this appointment wouldn't have been sent in. So if there's no further discussion at this time, we can go ahead and move to a vote on Bill 2246. So all those in favor, please raise your name placards.
Order, she's got to go.
Oh, you're so right. I'm so sorry. Okay, so now we'll go back to moving to a vote. So all those in favor, please raise your name placards. All those opposed, same sign. Any abstentions? Fantastic. You guys can go ahead and mark your votes into SharePoint, please. Bill 46. Yes.
I accidentally typed 48, so I'm going to do it again.
I'll delete it. Yep, thank you. Okay, while you guys are all putting those in, I'm going to announce the vote. The vote was 26 to 0 to 0, so Bill 2246 passes. Congratulations, Kia. Okay, do I hear any other new business at this time? Yes.
I motion to bring up Bill 2247.
Second.
It has been properly moved and seconded to bring up Bill 2247, the Cabinet Appointment of Executive Director of Healing Endeavors and Empathy Matters, Jaden Nye. This bill is amendable and debatable and requires a majority vote. We will start with discussion from the authors of the bill and then move into discussion from the floor. So since Chief of Staff Rigby is still not back yet, President Jensen, do you want to say something? It's very dramatic.
Okay, this one. I'm getting a workout in. So I met Jaden last year as, I guess, through Mental Health Action Week. And then when, I guess, over the summer, when we were looking at EDs, Abidemi and I agreed immediately that Jaden should be one of them, as she's just a leader within that community. We've seen her as the chair of Mental Health Action Week and the work that she's doing there. And then why this appointment bill is coming now and not at the beginning of the year is just because it was not in our Constitution, and it has officially been signed, which is great. And so HEAM is now in the Constitution, which is awesome. So thank you, everyone, on your work with that. And then Jaden acted as the ED, somewhat unofficially, but very, very officially, all of last semester and has done a great job.
Fantastic. Any other discussion at this time? Senator Terrell.
I just want to speak to her ability that I've witnessed. We've had lots of conversations, both like PSG and non-PSG related, and we've worked together on a couple of events. And I've always just been thrilled with the level of professionalism and also the outcome of the events that she's been a part of. So definitely has my vote of confidence.
Pro Tem Ferguson.
I would also like to speak to Jaden's ability to do this role, as well as just her patience and grace and character when it comes to this appointment. I don't know a lot of people who would unofficially do a role for so long with as much grace as she has, and it's something that I really, really do respect an awful lot. And so I just want to make that known that I'm in full support of this appointment, and I think that she will not just do a good job, but continue to do the fantastic job that she's been doing.
Chief of Staff at Rigby, did you want to say anything before we vote?
I would love to. Sorry, give me a second. If I sound out of breath, it's because I just ran up the stairs. I had to deal with something real quick. Alrighty. So I also want to talk to professionalism and just the fact that she's been working in this role for the past year, and hasn't necessarily gotten the recognition that she deserved for it. And that's why I'm really excited that this appointment bill for today, and a lot of work into again, MHA as well. That's just such a huge accomplishment, and the fact that she's continuing on with MHA this year is very exciting. I'm very excited to see what more she can do with both MHA as well as her hopeful appointment as the executive director of HEAM.
Fabulous. Any further discussion at this time? All right, seeing none, we can go ahead and move to a vote. So, Jaden, we will need you to leave. Okay, all those in favor of this appointment, please raise your name placards. All those opposed, same sign. I knew it. Any abstentions? Alrighty, so please mark that into SharePoint and Jaden can come back into the room. Okay, so with the vote of 26 to 0 to 0, Bill 2247 passes. Congratulations, Jaden. Okay, do I hear any new business? Seeing none, we can now move into announcements. Do I hear any announcements at this time? Pro Tem Dodona.
Senators are going afterwards to get something. Unsure what. There's been a lot of debate of what that is. So if you'd like to say it, even if you're not a senator, you're more than welcome to join us. We'll decide what we're going to go do afterwards. Other than that, nothing else.
Do you want to meet somewhere?
Just stay here. Stay in the room. Then you'll be a part of the conversation.
Good. President Jensen.
The Purdue Rideshare program starts tomorrow at 9 p.m. So make sure to share that on social media, share that with your friends. Tell them to look at their emails. They should be getting an email from Lyft as well to claim that pass.
Yes, get those discounts. Senator Mariani.
An announcement for IA. Just if we could meet very briefly after everything's done, that would be wonderful. Thank you.
Pro Tem Ferguson.
And one last time, I'm going to remind you all to fill out your check-in when to meet. Those need to be scheduled, and Ellie cannot do that and your office hour things. And any link that I've sent you and said, please fill this out, just look back and see if you've done it, please. Thank you.
Good. All right, we can now move into Senate Snaps. So for any newcomers, this is a way to recognize the hard work of others within PSG. So, Pro Tem Ferguson.
I have one for IA Chair Mariani, who worked over finals week to get our Constitution and bylaw updates really finalized, and it took really a load off of all of us going into winter break, and his continued effort on that is really appreciated. So thanks, Josh.
Senator Brown.
I just want to give a snap to everyone that spoke out tonight about an idea they had or whatever it was about the election committee. I know it was long. I know I myself, I'm like, okay, like this keeps going. But it's because we talk about it now and we have this long session now that we're able to make it better in the future for everyone at Purdue. So it was a long meeting, maybe that we didn't expect, but thank you to everyone that voiced an opinion to make things better for everyone.
Senator Terrell.
Not so Senate snap to Abademi for hoofing it up them stairs. I've done it. That's definitely an L. So.
Senator Bowman.
I'd like to give Senate snaps to Senator de Guzman for the fig bar that Senator Adams and I split. A stupid individual once said, "Senate session will be short. I'll eat dinner after."
All right, Senator Mariani.
I'd like to give a Senate snap in return to the wonderful Pro Temp Ferguson, who helped a lot with the logistical side of getting the governing documents through, and I couldn't have done it without her. I also have a Senate snap for Katie for dealing with all my amendments tonight. Our Slack message channel was a bit of a mess. I apologize for that. And I'd finally like to give a Senate snap to Jaden for being finally able to be put in the position she's been helping with for a long time now.
All right, any other Senate snaps? Pro Tem Dodona?
We've got some new senators who just after a really long session that was complicated. They definitely deserve Senate snaps, so give us to them, please.
No promises. Alrighty, so any further Senate snaps? All right, seeing none, the chair would recognize a motion to adjourn.
Second.
You can just say I recognize. Senator Terrell.
Madam Chair, I think I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Perfect. It has been properly motioned and seconded to adjourn the meeting. It is not amendable, not debatable, requires a 2/3 vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Any abstentions? The meeting is now adjourned. Thank you, everyone.